Look at all my kids.
If I could cuss, I will.
Oh, my kids.
Motorcycle. Now, I know you've seen some news about it, but this is a bike you really have to see it in person to appreciate it. A quick introduction to some of my colleagues here from Harley Davidson Motor Company. Jen Hoyer with the public relations team, Matt Swadelin, I'm sure a lot of you know on the brand and sponsorship side, and also shout out to Bruno, who's representing sales here as well. Special thank you to Laylos Harley Davidson as well for helping us put on this event. So Matt, Richard, and Brent on that side, thank you to those guys as well. So to kick things off, I think I'm gonna go ahead and let our intro video take it away, and then we're gonna introduce you to our special guest speaker.
You know, when I think of Fatboy, it screams emotion. When you're riding it, it has emotion. When you're looking at it, it has emotion. And it's so special to be back where this legend was born. I am so excited to be at Juneau Avenue today because I'm going to be able to see the next rendition celebrating 35 years of the Fatboy, and I can't wait to see it.
This was Dad's bike. When I first saw it in 1990, it had his signature style, his signature color, his rebel spirit. And that really has lasted 35 years.
Third floor of Juneau Avenue, the styling studio. This is where Willie and the design team created the 1990 Fatboy, the Gray Ghost.
I remember when my dad would ride prototypes down to Daytona and get customers' reactions.
This show down here is very important to Harley Davidson because these guys are really creating some beautiful works of art. And I think it's very important for me to understand these riders and know what they're putting together.
And to take a bike like the Fatboy down for the very first time, it was such a wow factor.
We design a bike and build it and take it out in front of our Harley Nation and see what they thought, which was pretty cool.
Learning what our customers loved and what they wanted to see. That was so important for Dad. And our customers nicknamed the 1990 Fatboy the Gray Ghost.
Seems so fitting that this icon bike for 2025 is the Gray Ghost. If you think of all the different iterations that we've done of the Fatboy, the icon for 2025 is truly a spectacular motorcycle. It pays an amazing tribute to the original and to the Fatboy legacy. I can't wait to show Bill what he's going to see today. Takes me back to, the day that I first saw the 1990. Here it is, Bill, the Fatboy Gray Ghost. What do you think?
They absolutely nailed it.
Look at that.
Wow, I can't believe
Isn't
this.
it amazing?
I love what they did with this logo. You think of those cast aluminum wheels, the leather valance on the seat and on the tame console. This new finish, is absolutely stunning.
Yeah. It's just a showstopper.
And they're serialized, which is really cool.
Plus all the new enhancements for the cruiser line. You've got this 117 engine.
The package together, the ride modes, the rider safety enhancements, the improved suspension, the LED lighting, the DNA that was set in 1990 is enhanced with the 2025. And who would have ever thought that we would be here 35 years introducing a 2025 iconic Fatboy.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah, it's legendary.
We should go for a ride.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go show Dad. Let's go show Dad. He'd love to see it.
He would.
There's only really one motorcycle company in the world that could have put together that Fatboy, and that's Harley Davidson. The iconic nature of the Fatboy is here to stay.
Yeah.
All right. Really cool to see those two bikes side by side. But let's take a look at what we have under the cover here. So calling Gene and is Matt around? Let's get somebody to unveil this thing. You know what? The man of the honor. Brad's gonna help uncover it.
Yeah. Nice.
Don't scratch it, Brad.
Wow.
Wonderful. Good. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Brad Richards, VP of Design and Director of Creative Motorcycles.
Thank you very much. Do I need to use this? Can you guys hear me without this? No? Is it better?
Yeah.
Better? Okay, all right. Well, thanks for coming, first of all, to celebrate the unveiling of our 5th icon, the 35th anniversary Fatboy, Grey Ghost. So I was going to take you guys through a little bit of the story of how this bike came to life, a little bit of the history of Fatboy, although I'm looking at all of you, you guys probably know the story as well as I do. You know, at Harley Davidson, we've done, I think over the years, a really good job of looking at what a lot of you are doing in your garages, and taking that inspiration back to the studio and turning that into a motorcycle that everybody can enjoy. And this is the same thing that Willie and Louie, you know, in the late 80s they did. There was a dealer in Canada that came up with a concept off a lowrider, 16-inch front wheel, did a few different things to the bike, and gave it a really interesting silhouette and proportion that was not in the portfolio at that time. There was an executive at Harley Davidson who was actually at this dealership and saw the bike, and they got the bike shipped back to the studio in Milwaukee at Juneau, where Bill and Karen were just doing that video. And the bike was sat in the studio and inspired Willie and Louie to create the Fatboy. And so that's kind of like how it came to life. We still do the same thing. I mean, you know, 10, 12 years ago, we were out here looking at, you know, all the FXRTs and FXRs that were all of a sudden coming back to life. Push rod performance was becoming a trend. We turned it into the Lowrider S and Lowrider ST. So we have this really cool relationship with all of you and all of our customers. We inspire you, you inspire us. We create great motorcycles, and the brand kind of lives on forever. And then what else is really cool about that is that everyone is part of the story, kind of part of the culture of Harley Davidson. So it's not really owned or shaped by one person. Anyway, so going back to Fatboy, this was such a, the 90 Fatboy was such a, it was such a cool bike. I remember being in design school. I was in design school, and I was riding a little bit dirt bikes and stuff, but I really wasn't a Harley guy at all. But a friend brought in a brochure for the Fatboy, and I'd never even noticed Harley Davidson before. And that 90 Fatboy was so impressive that I went to the local dealership and saw it in person. And what I remember walking into the dealership was the presence that the motorcycle had. And those guys were able to, and Willie was so good at this, he's got such a sophisticated eye in terms of finish and color. And there's a bit of restraint with Willie too. All of his designs are, you know, he doesn't do something over the top. It's kind of a process of elimination until you get the bike where it just looks like it doesn't need anything else, doesn't need anything more. You can't take anything else away, and there's your motorcycle, there's your iconic bike. And he certainly nailed that with the Fatboy. Anyway, you go into the dealership, I went into the dealership, I saw this motorcycle, and it just, that was the day that like I probably got the first, you know, the disease was probably put in my bloodstream for Harley Davidson. And that was 1990. And that bike was just so cool. So in 2018, the redesign, when we did the new nacelle and everything you're seeing here, that was really a big deal for us to try to kind of capture that same iconic presence that the motorcycle, I think, has. I think, you know, there's something called design creep out there in the world of automobiles and motorcycles, and that's as you are designing a new version of a particular vehicle, the tendency for engineering and designing is to add more stuff, so products get bigger and bigger. Motorcycles get a little bigger and bigger. I didn't want that to happen in 2018 when we were doing the new Softails, so I called up Bill Davidson and asked if I could get a 48 panhead rolled into the studio for about 3 years while we worked on the new Softails. And I put it in front of the door to the lunchroom for my team, so every day they were walking out, and they were getting kind of immersed in the scale of that motorcycle, because I didn't want them to get too big. With Fatboy though, because I wanted it to have this presence, we wanted it to feel a little bit larger than life, we actually scaled everything up a little bit. So we just kind of like dialed up some of the sizes and some of the sections and some of the fillets to make it feel a little bit bigger than it truly is. And I think that's what gives it its presence. When you're kind of standing around this motorcycle, you're very aware of it. And not all motorcycles are like that. And I think that comes from that 90 Fatboy. Now this one, the 35th anniversary, you know, this beautiful PVD finish that the engineering team was able to figure out. And let me tell you, this was a very difficult birth. There were probably 3 times along the 3-year journey to bring this thing to life where I just thought it was not going to happen. And the reason is our standards are so high for paint and finish. You know, Harley Davidsons, they don't end up in landfills. They're family heirlooms. They have to live forever. So you can't do something that's not going to last. So in order to meet all those standards, and we had never done PVD on tins like this before, we had done PVDs on powertrains. That CVO on the wall has a PVD exhaust system. So we knew about physical vapor deposition, which is basically, you're basically charging the part to attract a material that is then sort of sucked into the metal and lives there for the rest of its, you know, rest of the world, rest of life. And it's, again, to do it on the tanks and the fenders was a really big deal. And there was a lot of pushback. I remember walking around Board Free probably about 5 or 6 years ago with Jochen, and we came upon it was a 48 pan head that someone had chromed all the tins, and he just stopped and looked at it, and we, you know, he's like, "Can we do that?" And I said, "No, I don't think we can." I went back to the team and said, "Hey, let's talk about some chrome finishes. Let's just do a bike dipped in chrome." And it eventually led to this motorcycle, which is PVD. This is not chrome, different thing, but same effect. We also painted the frame on this guy, just like the original 90. The engine cases are a very unique color as well. This gray color only exists on this motorcycle this year. We did the yellow stripes. We tried to do the seat as well. We tried to really pay homage to that original 90 Fatboy, and I think the team did a really great job. This thing outside in the sunlight is just off the hook. You have to wear sunglasses around it. So anyway, that's a little bit of the story of this bike. Again, the 5th icon in the collection. So we have, you know, in our portfolio, we have a variety of collections, we call them. There's factory custom paint, there's CVO as a collection, enthusiasts are a collection, and then the icons, of course, are a collection. This is the 5th one, and I think it's probably one of the most impactful ones that we've done. And it just fits this motorcycle really, really well. The logo we brought back, we went back to the original logo just for this bike too. I always thought that there's a lot of, I talked to Willie about this, about the origins of the badge on the tank. Because I always thought it was a cow catcher in the front of like a steam-powered train. And I think that's what he was, that's kind of like, he never really tells me the story, he just kind of smiles as I'm talking and nods. But I think that, to me, that's what it is. It looks like the front of a train with wings, which I think is pretty cool. And there's a bunch of other little details around the motorcycle as well. Serialized plate on the console. There's the leather on the console strap and a little, some of those Western details that we put into the 90. We try to capture those here as well. We'll make 1,990 of these to honor its year of birth. And yeah, and the rest is sort of history. Did I cover everything? All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I want to see if anyone has some quick questions before Brad leaves the stage.
What are the parts that are bigger? You said that you expanded on stuff.
We kind of scaled the fenders up a little bit. Of course, it has the larger rear tire. You know, there's two in the Softail architecture, in the Softail family of motorcycles. There's basically 2 frame sets, right? There's this frame set with breakout that has that larger rear tire, and then there's the standard little skinnier rear end that's on like Lowrider S and ST. So when we knew we could, like the back fender could be a little bit tighter to that wheel. Same with the front fender. We just scaled them up just a little bit. You know, there's some tricks that we can play in the design studio to make something look bigger than it is. Like fillets. This is if that fillet were a little bit tighter, this little curve right here. I'm really getting into the weeds here. I apologize. I nerd out on this stuff. I'm sorry. If that were a little bit tighter, visually it looks smaller. The tires we scaled up just a little bit. The tires that we selected, the exhaust system we scaled up the shields a little bit, and yeah. So we just kind of And then the whole front end, the whole nacelle, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that Philips television from the 50s. It was actually the tube sat outside of the wooden console and floated. That's where this whole shape comes from. And we thought that was a nice nod to sort of like the atomic era styling of the 48 pan head, which is really the, where this kind of like comes from, the roots of it. So those are some of the little tricks that we play. You want to be careful with a Harley, especially when you're customizing one. I tell the team that the smaller all the rest of the parts around the motor look, the bigger the engine is. So you kind of see this sometimes when someone's customized a bike with giant front wheels and rear wheels, the engine gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm not a big fan of that. I always think the powertrain should be the first thing that you see and the most dominant element in a Harley Davidson. The rest of the motorcycle is essentially the setting. The engine is the diamond, right? That's another way to look at it. So we want to be careful about how big we go, but this one kind of struck a balance, and it certainly, I think, kind of playing up its proportions a little bit just adds to the sort of the myth of the motorcycle. Any other questions?
How much is it?
It's what, 25 and change? Did I get?
25,399. 25,399.
And this one's for sale, Matt? Where's Matt?
If you gift it to me, yes. We'll take it. We'll take the extra allocation.
So they wanted me to get into how we did this. It's proprietary. Like, we spent so many engineering hours figuring this thing out that, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, where else can I use it? So, but it's essentially it's a 3-step process, and I'm being really general here. But the PVD is captured between the base coat and the clear. So it's essentially it'll act just like our normal tins, but it's the same clear coat. So you can yeah. What's that? Treat it like paint. Treat it like paint. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you, Gene. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
If it scratches, you're fucked, right?
Well, I think you can buff it out just like paint.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as it's not through the clear.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I literally treat it like paint.
Wow.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Anything else?
Great job.
Thank you. Hey, thank you very
Yeah,
much. Hey,
looks
thank
good.
you. Thanks for everything that all you guys do for our brand. I mean, it's a big deal to us. So thank you so much for being here. And I know we're kind of in some funky waters right now, but we'll get through it. And this brand's going to be here for another 125 years for sure. And we'll just keep making motorcycles, and that's the only thing that I give a shit about. So thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Reminder, if you want some one-on-one time with Brad, we do have a sign-up sheet if you would like to interview him for podcast, for your channel, etc. There's still a couple spots left.
Why yo?
0-0. No.
It's a place